There are various reasons why you might want to widen your sport ATV, with adding stability being the primary one. Widening your ATV can also increase front suspension travel. While there are huge benefits to widening your ATV, the various methods of accomplishing this have different pros and cons. In this video, we'll cover the various methods of widening your sport quad, examining the cost, benefits, and drawbacks of each method, to help you better pick the right setup for your ATV type of riding and budget. If you find videos like this beneficial, or you have questions regarding a specific setup, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The first thing you'll want to consider is how wide you want your ATV to be. Set up for the woods, most top GNCC race quads are typically in the 46 to 47 inch width range. This is the width that's ideal for riders looking for the quickest setup on tighter trails. Motocross, flat track, and desert racers typically ride on wider courses. They often run their machines near the 50-inch maximum width typically allowed for most racing. Those who ride in the desert, in the sand dunes, on side-by-side trails, or enjoy playing on the motocross track will benefit from the added stability of an ATV in the 48 to 50-inch width range. We rarely, if ever, go beyond 50 inches in width, as it eventually results in an excessive lack of traction at both ends. Widening the back of your ATV adds stability, but without widening the front end, it'll steer to the outside if it tips up on two wheels. With properly set up front shocks, widening the front end adds additional stability on downhills, in braking bumps, or when landing crossed up on jumps. It can also increase suspension travel, and the quality of your suspension depending upon your setup. For setups near the 50-inch range, riders often run their front end around an inch narrower for improved cornering traction. There are a few options when widening the rear of your sport ATV. Offset wheels, wheel spacers, and extended wheel hubs are typically the most affordable ways to go, often between $150 and $300, give or take a few bucks. Added offset wheels move the wheel center that bolts to the wheel hub further inward, moving the outside edge further outward, widening the machine. Wider offset wheels don't need to add any additional weight to your ATV, although the further you offset a wheel, the more susceptible it becomes to bending. Wheel spacers provide additional width by bolting on between your wheel hub and your wheel. They're typically made of aluminum or a lightweight urethane material. They're available in different widths to match your front end setup or desired overall width increase. Typically made of aluminum or a combination of aluminum and steel, extended rear wheel hubs replace your stock wheel hubs, moving the rear wheel's mounting point further outward, increasing width. The biggest drawback in using any of these methods to widen the rear of your ATV is that they place additional stress on your stock axle, which is most likely much weaker than a good aftermarket one. If you're on a budget, all of these are effective ways to widen the rear of your ATV, but we wouldn't do a lot of jumping or clipping trees. Douglas Wheel is a long-standing American manufacturer with lots of wheel options for different uses and budgets. American manufacturer DuraBlue makes a wide range of extended rear wheel hubs and wheel spacers available in different widths. We used a set of DuraBlue's urethane wheel spacers on a Honda TRX 250X project a while back and were very happy with them. Typically manufactured of some sort of chromoly, good aftermarket axles don't usually come with an undue increase in weight, although they typically increase strength over stock. Aftermarket axles are usually adjustable in width, from width suitable from tight trails to wide open terrain. They utilize longer splines, with spacers that allow you to mount your hubs more inward or outward. Their adjustable width can also help fine-tune traction at the back of the ATV for different track conditions. Move the tires closer for added traction, or further apart to loosen the back end. Most aftermarket axles are covered by a lifetime warranty against bending or breaking. Even still, you get what you pay for, so we'd recommend spending a little more on a reputable racing axle. Money wasted on a ruined weekend of riding due to a broken axle could have gone to purchase a high-quality axle in the first place. We found the RPM Dominator 2 and DuraBlue Eliminator axles to hold up well over the years, and both feature a lifetime guarantee. We've also beaten on DuraBlue's slightly more budget-friendly heavy-duty axles on our Honda ATC 350X build with no bending or braking issues. What's best about DuraBlue is that if you have any type of sport ATV, 3 or 4-wheeled, chances are they have an extended axle for it. When it comes to widening the front of your ATV, you have a few options: wider offset wheels, wheel spacers, bolt-on widening kits, and longer A-arms. Already covering how wheel spacers and offset wheels work. These methods of widening the front of your ATV come with a number of unwanted drawbacks. Moving the center point of the wheel further away from the center point between the upper and lower ball joints increases scrub radius, impacting handling. Even worse, it decreases the steering's leverage over the front tires. This results in heavier steering and increased bump feedback through the handlebars. On the plus side, aside from adding a bit more stability, this is also the least expensive way to soften up the ride of harsh entry-level shocks due to the added leverage placed upon them. While it is an affordable way to go, for anything other than recreational riding or any machine other than an entry-level lightweight sport ATV, we'd strongly recommend looking for other ways to widen the front of your machine. For around $200, widening kits like those made by Diamond J Customs utilize brackets that bolt onto your ATV's frame stock mounting points for your A-arms and upper shock mounts, moving their mounting points further outward to increase width. The benefit of widening kits is that they don't increase bump feedback and steering effort like added offset wheels or wheel spacers. However, increasing the width between the A-arms mounting points increases bump steer, or the front end's tendency to follow bumps and ruts, creating vague handling. This is why Aftermarket and modern sport ATV frames like the YFZ 450Rs move the A-arms mounting points so closely together to increase steering precision. You might consider one as an affordable way to widen the front of a youth or lightweight low-powered adult machine for casual riding, but other than that, we'd say save your money for more costly yet better options. You probably guessed it, the most expensive way of widening the front of your ATV is definitely by far the best. Running longer A-arms increases width and slightly increases suspension travel. Running them with properly tuned shocks helps increase stability. Wider A-arms don't increase bump steer like widening kits, or increase steering effort and bump feedback like wider offset wheels and wheel spacers. Regardless of what some budget A-arm importers are claiming to make sales, with very few exceptions, running longer A-arms requires you to revalve and respring your stock front shocks, or may require you to purchase aftermarket front shocks if your stock front shocks aren't rebuildable. If not, at minimum you'll have wallowy suspension action through bumps and excessive body roll and turns. At worst, you'll bottom your front shocks until you break your machine, yourself, or both. Don't buy shocks simply because they have cool-looking reservoirs and their eye-to-eye length is close to your stock shocks. Correctly set up shocks are essential for having an ATV that handles well. Spend a little more money for a reputable shock manufacturer or tuner to avoid regret. When choosing A-arms, consider the reputation and history of the manufacturer and talk to a shock tuner you're considering working with to get their opinion. We'd highly recommend against purchasing dirt cheap A-arms, as a front-end failure can be catastrophic. Aftermarket A-arms often allow you to fine-tune your ATV's camber or how far the top of the tire leans in, affecting cornering traction. Caster, or how far back the upper ball joint is in relationship to the lower ball joint, affecting how quickly a machine steers. And toe-in, which is found on all stock A-arms, which impacts steering accuracy and if your ATV tracks straight. Some companies like Texeratec offer a quick caster adjustment system which is very user-friendly. Others can be very complex and difficult to set up. For many riders, simpler is often better. The term long travel A-arms often have more to do with the shock length and its stroke than the actual wheel travel. You could have a long travel front end with basically the same wheel travel as a standard travel front end. Long travel shocks are said to offer a little bit easier fine-tunability for the shock tuner. Talk to the shock company and chassis part companies you're considering working with before deciding whether it's worth spending a little more money to go with a long travel setup. In conclusion, there are some affordable ways to add some additional width and stability to your ATV before you start spending money on upgrades 2 or 3 times, like we did in the early years. Consider how large and powerful your machine is, what type of riding you do, how hard you want to ride as you progress, and whether or not you're riding a machine you plan on owning for a long period of time. This will help you purchase the upgrades that best fit your needs the first time out, saving you money in the long run. If you have any further questions regarding widening your sport ATV, please leave them in the comments below and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks for watching.